What is up, y'all? This is your host, Ezekiel Pierce. If you've been here before, then welcome back. If not, then welcome. This is episode 9 of the Baller Pod. And today I got a really good one. I got the opportunity to talk to a businessman originally from Detroit, who had a crazy life. His name is Chuck Bertollini. And Chuck went from selling cocaine in the streets of Detroit, manufacturing and distributing like a chemist, literally like Walter White, making his own psychedelics, PCP, making $20K a week, selling that on the streets in Detroit. And he ended up getting caught up with it. He did almost 4 years in federal prison, not Alcatraz, but there's a prison like Alcatraz. Y'all will hear all this in the podcast. But crazy life story. And Chuck was able to turn everything around from selling drugs, from being a big time dope mover in the streets to, being a businessman, having a family and children. And honestly, I just got a lot of wisdom from him, and I'm really glad that he came on. I hope you guys enjoy what I got going on in this video, and I appreciate you for tuning in. Yeah, so we can go ahead and start right now.
Okay.
I'll start by just saying, Chuck, thank you for having me coming into your home. Ever since I saw you at the hospital, you've been, nothing but open arms to me, and I know your time is valuable. So I want to say, thank you for hopping on the podcast.
You're welcome.
Yes, sir. So I guess before we get into everything, let's just go back to the beginning, where you're born, and we'll just go back from the start.
Okay. You hear me real well? Here?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Born in Detroit. There until I was about 5th grade.
Okay.
And then we moved to Berkeley, Michigan. And then my dad bought a business up in Carroll, Michigan, which is a farm community. And went to high school in Carroll High School. Graduated in '61. And anyways, got married at 19. Had my first child at 19. Had all 3 of my children by 21, 22, can't remember now. But I was going around job to job, worked for Chrysler Corporation for about 3 years. Couldn't stand being inside. So
What did you do for them for those 3 years?
I was an inspector.
Okay.
I had one of the easier jobs in the plant, and it paid me a good living and made let my kids go to the doctors and dentists and had a place of my own, that type of thing. So, but I was confined, and what I did on the after getting out of work, I was looking for sales jobs. And after some time, I started selling Bibles. And it taught me a lot on how to greet people, I don't necessarily want to say how to manage them, but you learn how to do that.
How to manage relationships.
That sort of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. And I was successful at it to the point where I quit Chrysler. Okay. But before that, we moved back down into Detroit area. And I was married for 14 years.
Okay.
Wasn't working. But we got that far with the kids type of thing. For the kids.
Right.
Okay.
Just for the timeline's sake, so you graduated high school,
right,
and started a dealership,
no,
or not dealership, Chrysler.
Yeah, we moved to Detroit from Carroll back down to Detroit, and then I went to work for Chrysler.
Then you went to work for Chrysler.
You're absolutely right.
Okay, and that's when you were with your first wife.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So that I stayed there for about 3 years, as I said. and finally it just got to me, and but in the interim, what I did at night, I would go out and try to sell things, door knocking. That's what I did,
Yeah.
and I made extra money because money's never enough with kids that want dental appointments, doctor appointments, pharmacy, etc., etc. So
Right.
I worked 2 jobs. Anyways, that ended after 14 years, and it just wasn't working. So we parted ways, and we're
Hmm.
still amicable to this day.
Yeah.
We were together when our son died, and that sort of thing. So then I went in. I was kind of a bachelor, and but that's when I started getting into the streets. My
At what age?
About 23,
23. Okay.
24 years old,
All right.
and my sister was also in the streets, and
Of Detroit?
in Detroit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the money was good,
Hmm.
and well, I was too smart to get caught.
Right.
Not so. And
You
so
think you are?
yeah, well, of course, I have to be
Hmm.
that way to try to stay out of jail.
Exactly.
So then I got into hard drugs, cocaine, heroin, so on.
Did you ever do them?
No,
You
never.
just sold them.
No, I seen what it did to people,
Right.
and at that time it didn't matter to me. I was there for the money.
Hmm.
Then I started getting a guilty conscience, and then I had an episode where I was buying a load of coke, and some guy put a 44 in my mouth and took my $30,000 on me.
Wow.
So I figured I don't want to do that game anymore. I want to go into love children who want to buy psychedelics.
Right. Do you want to go into that story of how when when you were confronted with that conflict and the
Oh,
guy ends up putting the gun in your mouth?
putting a gun in my
How
mouth.
did that even happen?
He he. I was in the back of a car. They had supposedly had the drugs in the trunk,
Hmm.
and they said, "Well, get in the car." And it was a Buick. Doesn't matter. It was where they had bucket seats, and he turned around and he said, "Open your mouth," and put the gun in my mouth and cocked it.
Wow.
And I knew it was a rip immediately. So I took his hand. I said, "Take the money, dude. I can make it some other place." And he laughed, and I laughed. He said, "Give me the money," and I did, and he let me out.
How much were you making? Because you said you had 20, 30,000 on you. How much were you making selling, cocaine on the streets? Like, how much
Well,
were you making from that?
um, oh, I don't know, probably $5,000, $6,000 a week, something
Okay.
like that
That's a lot back in the day.
in a day. That's
Yeah.
correct. So then I got out of that game, and I went to. I said, these people who are making the product are making the money. So I said, well, I'm going to go to the library and find out how do you make that. And literally, you can find out how to make anything like that in the library. So I did. It was all Greek to me. And as it went on, it took me about a year. And I finally knew how to put the lab together and do what I had to do with the ingredients and so on.
How did that work? Like with the lab and
Well, I had it up in an attic. I, no, I thought I had a picture of it, but I threw it away. Um, and, I just built the lab. It was about 6, 8 feet wide and about 4 or 5 feet high, all kinds of things to make the drug.
hmm
So, the ether was involved and a lot of different things.
and psychedelics, PCP.
Yeah,
That's
that's what I made.
yeah.
Okay, and methadone hydrochloride, uh, so on. Anyways, I did that and I became successful at it. Well, the DEA is not stupid. Believe me, they aren't. And the word gets around that there's a dealer that's a chemist in town that started getting around.
It reminds me of, have you seen Breaking Bad?
Yeah,
It reminds me of
same.
that.
It's same thing.
You remind me of Walter White.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I watched it too. So,
Uh-huh.
and it kept bringing back memories and memories and memories.
Right.
So, I would make a batch, 1 pound at a time, and I would sell it for $10,000. And I did that twice a week. I was making $20,000
A week.
a week.
Wow. And are you like the supplier? Like, are you supplying like drug dealers that will then go out and sell?
Only top dealers,
Top dealers.
not down
Okay, which you already had connections with them from
from
prior
prior.
experience. Yeah.
And again, you add on and add on and add on. Well, eventually, what happened? The DEA just said that's enough, and they put the whole force of Detroit on me. And they finally talked one of my guys that I used to sell for, who got busted, to set me up. And I was delivering product to him, and I walked in, and DEA just arrested me, threw me in the back of a truck, and beat the shit out of me.
Really?
Just beat me to a pulp, blood and broken nose and so on. And then I went in front of the judge the next day, and the judge said, "What happened to him?" And immediately they said he fell down stairs.
Mm. The
But
judge probably knew. That's
well,
no stairs. Yeah.
but what's he going to say? He's going to go with a guy that's selling drugs, or is he going to go with the DEA?
The DA. Yeah.
Anyways, fast forward it. I was given 4 years, and I went away in 1974. I got out in 1977, November of 77. And the judge told me at sentencing, because of the probation report and so on, just like Trump has to do now. And so he says, "I've read the probation report." He says, "You're a smart man. Why are you doing it illegitimately?" And I said, "Judge, it was the money." He says, "Well, try to do it the right way next time, and you could probably make more money."
Right.
And I took that to heart. I thought about that probably every day that I was in. So finally, they let me go.
What did that look like? Your time in prison? Like, how did you balance like relationships in prison, and not getting hurt, or
Yeah,
can you talk about that?
twice I had to defend myself taking showers. Okay, they want to bend you over.
So that's real.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. And I trained in Taekwondo and that sort of thing. So they didn't take advantage of me.
Good.
Let's just put it that way.
That's good.
Okay. So, but what they did to be nasty is they put me all the way out, and I lived in Detroit. This is where it had all the way out to Seattle. It's called McNeil Island, and it's the duplicate of what am I? What's that one in San Francisco?
Is it like Rikers Island, maybe?
No, well, no, that's Rikers Island is state prison.
Yeah.
What is the one where Al Capone was at?
And people were trying to swim away from it.
Yeah.
Um,
God, what's the name of that? Alcatraz.
Alcatraz. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It was the brother of that. It looked exactly the same as Alcatraz.
Wow.
So they kept me out there so I could get visitors and nothing for a year. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but eventually I ended up in Chicago, what they call MCC, Metropolitan Correctional Center. And
That was for being kind of, I guess,
I was
being better.
absolutely, you earn it. And I became the warden's secretary. And because of my knowledge of what was going on, and people would come to me to do their briefs and their, all that. So I stayed there a year and a half, and that's where they let me out in November of 77. And I said to myself, I'm not going back. I made a promise to myself. That's it. I'm not. And understand, I was making a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
But that sure doesn't mean anything when you're locked up.
Right.
Nothing.
Did you have any money like stashed away left over or?
It took me about 2 years to get to court and so on
Hmm.
because they were backed up, and I spent all that money.
On court?
Well, attorneys and
Yeah,
et
attorneys.
cetera, et cetera.
Right.
So, anyways, I got home and I started working jobs. Back then, $5 an hour and that sort of thing.
What was that like going from like a crazy federal prison to correctional facility to bam, now you're back in the real world. How'd you adapt to that?
Well, that's why they have 50% people coming back
Yeah.
because they don't know what to do.
Uh-huh.
I knew guys that were in there for 10, 15 years and they were being released.
Wow.
They have no idea what they're going to do.
Yeah.
If they don't have support, family support of some kind, and usually it doesn't even work out then. 50% of the time it doesn't work out.
Hmm.
And they go back to the streets and they get thrown back in
Right.
because they become comfortable
Exactly.
in that. And I've seen that many, many times. Uh, so the bottom line is I wasn't going back. And so one day, a fella asked me. He had been a friend all along, even before. He wasn't in the streets. He was a legitimate guy.
Hmm.
And he says, "I've started a company." Excuse me,
You're good.
in water purification.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, "How boring can you get water?" You know, I mean. So he says, "Well, come on and uh, uh, show me what it's about."
Hmm.
So one night, Thanksgiving Eve, I remember it so clear. We went to a home and tried to sell the product. And I sat there and listened, and I said to myself, I can touch all the senses, the smell, the feel, everything. I can touch by this one product. And I'm already calculating in my head how I'm going to set it up in respects to the sales side.
Hmm.
And he sold it. And we walked outside, and it was a kit that we have, to test the water and so on. I reached down and grabbed that kit, and I said, I'm going to work tomorrow. And
As you decided to take your sales, um, I mean, you're pretty much. Would you consider yourself like a master at sales? It kind of seems like that's your
well,
forte.
I didn't know that, but I became that.
Right.
I didn't know that at that time. Every day in sales, Ezekiel, you learn, you learn. It's like anything else in life. You keep doing it, and you get better and better and better. Hopefully, you get better. Like you're doing with this podcast, you keep
Yes,
doing
sir.
it, and you're going to get better.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So um, we we started a company. I went to work for him, and he gave me 49% of the company because he knew my ability. And that went along for about 3 years. And then in the state of Michigan, they had what they call usury laws. And what that means is that a finance company can only charge up to 13% on for a loan. Well, that was the Jimmy Carter area, and the actual was 21%. So all banks and everything stopped financing.
Okay.
We couldn't get a bank to finance our customers. So I looked at him, and he looked at me, and he says, "Do you want to come to Florida? We got better chance there." And I said, "No, I'm going to California." And before I went there, I had another friend say that he was opening up an office, uh, international dating service to be exact. And he says, "I'll make,"
International dating?
yeah,
What is that?
uh, where they would match up people.
Okay.
It was
Like
Brad.
actual dating.
Oh yeah, actual
Okay.
dating. Yeah, they would get 5 referrals every month, type of
Hmm.
thing. It was legitimate.
Okay.
And he offered me a job to gave me a salary and gave me a home to live in. And bought me a brand new Cadillac Eldorado, and I was ahead of. Uh, what, I'm trying to remember exactly what it was, but it was all about advancing his company,
Right.
and I did a good job at that. Well, all of a sudden, they had a little trouble with the attorney general. And anyways, they shut down and they went back to Detroit. I rented this house that we're sitting in from one of the owners of the business. And we were in here about 2 weeks and the phone company was on strike. So the phone was still in their name,
Mm-hmm.
one of the vice president. And I answered the phone, and before I could say a word, it said, "Mr. Rogers, this is Bank of America, and we're foreclosing on your home." And I just give him $5,000 a week before.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's what I said. Oh,
Yeah.
no. And I owe my family here, and so I said to him, just out of just I got to do something. I said, "Who owns the first on the house?" And he said, "Well, I can't give you that information." I said, "Well, you take my information, and would you please?" He heard my problem, and he was sympathetic to it. And I said, "Have them call me."
This is you're on the phone with the bank?
Yeah, on
Yeah.
the bank. Yeah, thank you. And at that point, he took my name and number and everything. And about 3 days later, I get a call from the holder, the first position holder on the house. And I told him what was going on and so on. He says, "Man," he said, "you got the wrong end of the deal there." And I said, "Yeah, pretty bad." So he says to me, "I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I have to come up with $25,000 in 90 days to settle the bank down. If you do that, I will give you a land contract on the house." Oh, I said, that's no problem. That was, let me tell you, Zach, $25,000 was like $2 million then.
Right.
So I said, "Well, sure, I'll do that." I had no idea what, but what I did is I went back to what I learned in Michigan with the water business. So I went out and I knocked on doors in the morning, made appointments for
Just
that
by yourself.
by myself, um, made appointments.
How old are you at this point too?
Oh, I must have been, 34, 35,
34.
somewhere near. I got released when I was 33.
Okay.
Okay.
So for the timeline, so you went and you get out of prison, you join your friend with his water treatment company, water
Right.
purification, and then you moved to California and you were doing the dating thing?
IDS, yes.
Okay, and then you decide, okay, this isn't working. Let me go back to water purification.
No, I had no choice
You had no
because
choice.
the Attorney General of California shut them down.
Shut him down, so you had to.
I had to.
Okay.
And so what I did is I said, "Well, okay, the only thing I know I can make money at is water purification." So I did so, and I went, like I said, door knocking in the morning. I made appointments for that night. I would go out there, I would sell the product that night, and at 8 o'clock in the morning, I come back and I install it. Soon as I got done installing it, I had a change of clothes in the car. I would go to a gas station, get in my good clothes, and door knock them.
So just hustling.
Hustle. Oh, it was a hustle.
Yeah.
Good word for it, because that's exactly what it was.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have much of a life, didn't have anything, but everything was at stake. I had nowhere to go.
Right.
So on the 80, I think 87th day, I sent him a check for $25,000. It took me 87 days to accumulate $25,000.
Wow.
And he was a man of his word, and he gave me a land contract here. The land contract was pretty high in the interest rate. So as soon as I got established and so on, I refied the house. And it's 42 years later here, I still am.
Beautiful house.
Yeah, I worked hard
Yeah.
for it. You asked me how much I paid for it. I paid $490,000 for it. And I'm now thinking, and if it sells, I'm going back to Michigan because my grandchildren and great grandchildren
Mm-hmm.
want to see, quote unquote, Papa back.
They miss Papa.
Yeah, and the reason for that is, I think I've mentioned to you before, is that 2 years ago, I had a blockage in my urine tract with a big kidney stone, and my body went septic, and I actually died twice.
Wow.
And once going to the hospital, and they brought me back. And once I was in ICU, I died again, to the point where they told Cheryl that I wasn't going to make it, that she better get the children, the grandchildren and my children that were still, all three of them were alive then.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't say that, there was two alive then. Anyways, I don't know, Ezekiel, that maybe because I didn't abuse my body again with drinking or smoking, and I always stayed healthy as much as I could. And again, I'm stressing that, hey, if you want to do that, that's fine. That's your body. You do what you want. But I pulled out of it. I was in the hospital 33 days in the hospital, and then I had another 3 weeks in rehabilitation because I had no control of my arms. I couldn't lift them or I couldn't do anything. So they worked with me at the rehabilitation center, and after 3 weeks, they let me come home.
And that
So,
was pretty recent, right?
the 2 years ago.
2 years ago. Wow.
Yep. And so, with that being said, let me backtrack a little bit. After I got the new financing of the house and everything, I said, well, now I'm going to go on with the company that I built, that I was out every day getting door knocking and so on. And that's when,
This was all you, right?
oh
So
yeah, oh yeah, there's nobody else. Me.
so it was just completely you,
Yes,
no one helping at all.
no one.
Wow. That's impressive.
No. Well, it was tough.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say right up front, nothing comes easy in this world. Yeah, it was easy money in my past,
Mm-hmm.
but you never knew when the man was coming through your door and so on and so forth, and you wouldn't go home for the next 3 years.
Yeah.
So that wasn't going to happen anymore with me. And many times I said, "Oh man, I could go back and make the drugs," and nope, never did. So what I did is I had back in the back, I had a card table and a telephone, and I started working and working and getting leads and so on and so forth, and going out and selling. So it got to the point where I had to have an office. So I went down to Placentia and got a little tiny office, and I started hiring salespeople, secretary, and so on. So I had a nice little office.
Mm-hmm.
I got down, Ezekiel, to $100 in my bank account, and I thought I was going to lose it. And I don't know, God knows, somebody knows, it just clicked. And I've always said, and people have said to me, you were at the right place at the right time in California.
Right.
And I was. And I recognize it later.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, the ball started rolling, and I did that for 32 years.
Why do you think you said it clicked? Why do you think, can you pinpoint a certain thing that could be or
Yeah,
the reason for that clicking?
I can. With my persistence and having good people around me.
Mm-hmm.
I had a good sales manager, I had a good installation manager, and so on, all that were very professional. And for some reason, it just clicked. And I started out doing, as years went by, I started doing, 5, 6 a week systems. I ended up doing 220 systems a month.
Wow.
And
Could you kind of tell me how does that work with, and now you're like the top dog. You went from doing it all yourself, you're doing all the footwork, you're doing the sales, door knocking, installation. Now after you hire some people, now what are you doing?
okay, now I'm leading. I'm teaching.
Okay.
I used to hire salesmen, put ads in the Times and so on, and they'd come in. I'd interview them. I'd have a class of maybe 8 or 9 or 10 people, whatever it might be. Sometimes 3, 4, never know. And I would teach them. I would teach them for a whole week, and I lost two wives because my mistress was my business.
Okay.
You know,
Right.
and I mean I didn't take care of business at home. I took care of business there, and so it just started, and then I got a sales manager when that took that away from me, the training. But I critiqued everybody because I've been through it.
Hmm.
I know what's right and I know what's wrong and I know what makes it work. So I did that.
That seems extremely valuable. I don't know a lot of business owners who, I guess, did everything in the company. A lot of business owners, they already are at the top. They might not be able to relate to someone
That's
who's in
absolutely,
sales, but you could
absolutely,
relate to all of them.
absolutely.
Right.
And that made all the difference in the world.
Hmm.
But give you an example. I had a serviceman. We would have our service meetings every Monday morning. And I would go in, I'd buy donuts. I'd be up at the 6:30 in the morning and go buy donuts and coffee, and I'd get it all ready.
Hmm.
And he started giving me all kinds of excuses, and I finally stopped him. I said, "Dude, been there and done it. So you're fired. I'm not going to play that game with you. I know what it's like out there." So to what you were saying, to me, it was absolutely important that I knew every facet of the business because they couldn't pull wool over my eyes.
Right.
Okay. And I ended up having 100 people. And at the end, I had 20. I downsized. It was just too much. You know, every person has their own problems and they wanted to talk about it and so on. And it just, I was tired. I got tired. And literally, I downsized. And
So you told me that you had at one point the biggest water purification company in the United States.
that's
Is
right.
that's where you got to at the peak, and then you just downsized
Yeah.
from that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I give it in numbers.
Right.
I started out, like I said, in a card table, and I had 5 or 10 systems out there. I ended up with 60,000 systems that I
Wow.
sold, and then what I did is I downsized, completely took out the sales side because the sales side was costing me so much money. Every week we would put an ad in the newspaper and the L.A. Times most of the time, and that would cost me $2 or $3,000 a weekend.
Hmm.
And the and I'm a numbers cruncher, and it wasn't working anymore.
It wasn't worth it.
No, so I shut it down, and I strictly went into the service side. I made more money on the service side than I ever did on the sales side.
You were servicing all of the
60,000,
installations that you already had.
60,000,
Okay.
and in my business, where we made a lot of money was we would put reverse osmosis in, purify your water, and every year they had, excuse me, they had to have their filters changed. So we would charge a service charge, but the cost of the filters. And I ended up running 7 or 8 trucks, I guess it was. And if they didn't bring me $1,000 a day on each of them, I know they weren't doing a good job because I'd went out and done it myself.
Right.
I know. And I think in all the years I had, I think I lost maybe 8, 10 people in all them years
Hmm.
because I learned that you listen. God give you 2 ears to listen with and one mouth to shoot off. Okay? And you listen to people and you try to help them as much as you can and work with them as much as you can. And I never lost people. Never. Under circumstances, oh, the wife wants to move back somewhere to her family. They just had a baby. You know that.
Yeah.
Not that anything against me. What I was doing is just they wanted to move on.
Hmm.
But I had people work with me for 20, 25 years.
What was the key to I want to know two things. So, what's the key to your ability at scaling your business? And then also, what's the key to being like nurturing those relationships with your employees?
Okay, the first one is how did I grow it?
How did you scale it so greatly?
Moving up, is that what you mean?
Yeah, like
Okay,
just building your company.
okay. Hard work. I know that's an overworked saying,
Yeah,
but it's the truth. And again, sometimes I'd work 18 hours a day. And, training people, training installers, training the secretary, training. And pretty soon you get qualified people in those positions, but you better make money to pay them. So I always constantly zeroing in on my sales staff because that's where the cash flow came.
right.
Okay. And
You're making sure that while you're growing your employees, you need to make sure that those employees are worth it and making you enough profit in order to pay them and also stay, on the plus side, right?
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the formula.
Mhm.
You find that person that's good at what they do and you treat them with respect and you pay them good. My wife always says to me, I stay in contact with my last accountant. She's in Montana, I think. Anyways, she, my wife says, because we hear so much about women not getting paid what men do. Have you heard that?
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
hear it all the time. I never did. I paid them exactly what the men were making. And that's why they had loyalty to me because I didn't take advantage of no one. I didn't take advantage of no one. When someone was sick and I had 3 or 4 installations, I always had a change of clothes and I'd hop in a truck and I'd go do it. Okay. Uh, Believe me, there were times that wasn't easy because I was out there installing, but yet things were happening at my office that the boss should have been there, type of thing.
Right.
And but it worked out. After a while, though, Ezekiel, I got tired mentally, not so much physically, but mentally. And as I grew older, okay, and so, and what was the second question? I'm sorry.
The second question was how have you like been able to nurture relationships? You
Uh,
kind of answered it by just saying you kind of treat everyone equally,
oh,
but
all of them, all
yeah.
the time, and they knew it. I didn't take advantage. A lot of my friends that I would meet at conventions and so on. Oh no, I pay her less because the men over here, not me. I just that irritated me something here, because they being women, they have every right to make as much money as the man if they could do the job.
Of course.
Well, it isn't, of course. A lot of men
You would
and
think it should be, of
but
course.
it's not.
Right.
And to this day, as we sit here and talk about it, it's a real problem. There's a glass ceiling for women. I smashed that years ago. And, I had finance girls where contracts would come in and they'd call call the credit companies and do all that. I mean, with me 10, 15 years. And so, which was good because the last 10 years, I started backing away from the business. I had people to run it.
Do you think that you were almost too hands-on? Because so my brother-in-law, he owns a company, like a disaster relief kind of stuff, staffing. And something that he's kind of vocalized is he does like everything. Like he's one of those bosses that's always in on everything and he's like, "Oh, I'll just do it myself." Like do it yourself so it can get done right, right? Do you think that that was something that you kind of did or
In
did
the
were you
beginning,
good?
in the
Yeah.
beginning, I did.
Was it hurtful or was it beneficial?
No, it trained the people to do the job.
Mhm.
Okay, the way I wanted it done.
So that you could then just take your hands
Okay,
off and allow them to
and
do it.
allow them to do it and keep
Right.
an eye on
Right.
it. Did it work all the time? No, there was problems. One was going through divorce and not doing the job correctly,
Mhm.
and I'd have to bring them in and say, I know you're going through a lot of problems. I get it, because I went through divorces. And I said, but you got to tighten it up. It's costing me money. I never berated anybody. Never. You get more with sugar than vinegar. I've
Right.
said that for years. And it usually worked out. Like I said, maybe I lost 8, 10 people in 32 years, uh, which is phenomenal when I started out with 100.
Yeah, definitely.
So, um, yeah, you treat everybody with respect and you get respect back most of the time. There were a couple people that wanted to be the boss. And they don't. They seen that I was making $4,000 or $5,000 every time I sold something, but they forgot about I had to pay liability insurance, I had to pay people, I had to pay for medical, I had to pay da 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 da.
Right.
And when it come down, they don't see all that. They see, oh, he gets $5,000 or whatever it happened to be on this job, but that ended up being like 300 or 400 profit
Right.
after everything else. So, but I did have hands on for years, but I built the people into positions. And, after a while, I bought my first Rolls Royce.
Right.
And
Is that the one that's out front right now?
no,
Is that the first one or
no, that's my third one.
that's your third? Wow.
Yeah. And, well, there's reason. The first one I bought used, and it was fine. And, I drove that until it just fell apart.
What year was that?
80, 83, 84, something like that. I can't remember. And then I bought another one, and Cheryl totaled that.
A car accident?
Yeah, the car
Oh
accident.
no.
And she had a blackout, and pressed on the accelerator, went right into an intersection, and took out 2 cars. Nobody was killed, thank God.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. And she spent like months in the hospital. She had broken her legs 21 different places because she stiffened.
Wow.
And when she hit the cars,
Yeah.
so it was pretty bad. Anyways, the car was totaled. And then I got my new one. And that was one of the things in my bucket list, to own a home, hopefully healthy children. I had a little problem there. Um, and, to have a Rolls Royce, amongst other things. And I finally fulfilled everything in my bucket list.
Right.
So
Why Rolls Royce?
it's top of the. Can you get better?
I don't know.
I don't
I
think
drive
so.
a Jeep.
Yeah, well, and you know what? I love Jeeps,
Yeah.
but it's just a thing with me.
Mhm.
I'm past that Jeep situation.
Mhm.
Not that it's bad. If I
Mhm.
was a young man, I'd probably have it and go out in the woods and do.
Yeah.
I'm done.
I
with
mean,
them.
if I could have a Rolls Royce right now, I would. But
Okay,
you know.
and you will someday. Keep it in your mind that you will, and you will.
Yes, sir.
That it's positive mental attitude that it'll get you, like you're trying to stay ahead of the game with your running back, if I remember. Am I
Yeah.
correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you in your mind, you're a good running back, and if you stay positive about it, even if you get rejection, still stay positive, and you can move on to something else.
Right.
Maybe another team, another college, or whatever it might be.
Has that been a key to your success? Is just being positive all the time?
All the time. I must have had from when I started my company, and like I said, in one room back here, back in Detroit and so on, when I wasn't in the streets, I would have jobs. And I don't know, I'll bet I've had between 50 and 100 jobs. But what I did, Ezekiel, every time I had a job, I didn't necessarily like it and I left, but I took something with me. I took something that worked there, and I also seen what didn't work. So all those times that I had, left companies or worked for them for a while, like Chrysler, 3 years and so on. If with Chrysler, I knew what I didn't want. So, okay, that's not going to happen again either.
Right.
So, and I would teach the people. I said at the end of my sales pitch and training and so on, I said, some of you will not make it. I said, but when you want to leave, and we'll leave with, where we have a good attitude with each other, you can come back and see me anytime you want to and talk to me. And many times they came back. And I would say, take what you've learned here with you and use it the rest of your life because it's all positive. Negativity gets you nothing. Positivity gets you everything. And I've said that to years. I just said it here just recently to someone, a friend of mine who's in the water business,
Mm-hmm.
and he was having a hard time. And I had to go and have dinner with him, and it took me an hour and a half to pump him back up.
Right.
And he went out the next day and sold 2 deals.
Good
So
job. Yeah.
yeah, but we all get down, and I had a mentor that I would call when I would get
I was
down.
gonna ask you that.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
He, this was a fellow. I remember I said IDS, International Dancer. He was
Yep.
the owner.
That was your mentor.
Yes, and he passed away here just a couple of years ago. But
Oh, wow.
um, I worked to work for him for free, just to pick his brain, and I did. And him and I became friends all these years. And I would still call him, and Ed was his name. And I said, Ed, I'm having a hard time. Can you kind of guide me where? And he would sit and talk to me for 2, 3 hours.
Yeah.
And I'd get off and I'd be pumped again.
Right.
And I did what he suggested I do. And it always worked out. Oh,
It seems like mentors. It seems like every very successful person I know has that same story of they met someone and they got mentorship from them. Like, how important do you think that was to?
very.
Yeah.
To the point where I worked for him for free just to see how he did business.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people, especially now, whatever reason, that they get on the Jewish people. I wanted to be next to him because they knew how to do business.
Right.
And he was Jewish,
Mm-hmm.
and he was very successful. So and I said to him, "Hey, can I come?" And he said, "Well, I don't have any positions open." I said, "That's okay. I'll come just to be next to you and watch you work and what you do." And he let me.
Absolutely. Wow.
And years later, that was in Detroit. Years later, that was the fellow that called me out here to be an executor in promoting the company, marketing, and so on. And he gave me a house that was about this size, and he bought me a brand new Eldorado. I got off the airplane; it was sitting there waiting for me,
Wow.
and I was there for a long time until the attorney general shut down them in California. He went back to Detroit and still was very successful till he finally had a stroke and he passed. So
Sorry.
that was tough on me.
Yeah.
I mean, he was my mentor.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think I was telling you about the fellow I went to dinner with, and he was really down and so on. I was at a convention in Las Vegas, and I'd been retired now for some time. And anyways, I had a friend that wanted me to go with him, another friend that's in the water business, and
Yeah.
we went to the convention. And as we were walking through, have you ever been to one of those conventions where you have rows of people?
Yeah, and people are lined up in stalls.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And, and all the way through it, Bertollini, that's my mentor. All the way through. Where it would take me a half an hour, 40 minutes, 45 minutes to get through, it took me 3 hours.
Everyone wanted to say hi to you.
Say hi, and
Yeah.
that they hadn't seen me in a long time. And the fellow that I talked to, that he also plays saxophone. He's
Mm-hmm.
great. And I went to one of his gigs here, I don't know, 3 or 4 months ago. And he stopped everything. He said, "Everybody, I want you to meet Mr. Bertolini. He's my mentor." And this is a man that's 48 years old. So I did a lot of things right and a lot of things wrong, Ezekiel. But I got my head turned on right. And was it easy? No. But I kept at it and always have a positive mental attitude, like you're having with your
Yeah.
running back.
Trying to. Yes, sir.
Yeah, and don't stop trying.
Hmm.
And you think sometimes, and I have many times said, "Oh, what am I going to do?" Type of thing. I have a $10,000 payroll coming in 2 days, and I don't have it.
Hmm.
I don't know what it was, Ezekiel, but because I stayed positive,
Something just
just figured
figures
in
itself out. Yeah.
a new door opened.
Right.
Oh, really? Okay.
Hmm.
I made payroll, that sort of thing. So you have, and it's hard. I'm not saying this is going to be easy, but you have to stay positive constantly. And many times I'm thinking here that I just thought there's no way out,
Yeah.
and it just I don't know what it was. Something always happened where it turned out okay.
Yeah.
Because if you go negative and you're not going to do anything, at least you're putting one
Then
foot
you
forward.
guarantee that you're not going to do anything.
That's right.
But if you try, then maybe it doesn't go as planned,
But at
but
least
something's going to happen.
you move your feet forward,
Yeah,
not backwards.
for sure.
That gets nothing.
Absolutely.
And so I've learned an awful lot from a man that I was 21, 22 years old. I thought I knew it all at 21.
Yeah.
What a joke that is.
The more they say, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know.
You don't know.
Yeah.
Exactly right. That's perfect. I never heard that, but
Yeah.
that's exactly right.
Right.
As life goes on, you say, "Oh, wow, I thought it was this way back when I was 21. It's really this way at 30."
Hmm.
That sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, and to this day, I get calls from people around the world, actually, Finland and so on, just recently, um, picking my brain.
Hmm.
That's what they're doing. I know what they're doing,
Right.
but that's okay.
Yeah.
I think it's my role now is to teach. And
You're teaching me right now.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. And they call me and they're having trouble in business. What do you think I should do? And because I went through all of the things, well, try this and try that. Not do this, but try this.
Yeah.
And more often than never, it works.
Hmm.
And like I said, walking through the convention, I bet half the convention people knew me, and that I'd done business with, and because I had retired and they hadn't seen me in maybe 5, 6, 8 years, whatever it was.
Those were the people, because I know you had told me that you had done speaking events and stuff like that. Did those people meet you from that?
Well,
A few of them at least?
some of them they were vendors that I ordered stuff from, and
Yeah.
things like that. And
Just
then,
those connections, especially being the number one in the United States,
yeah,
you're going to get a bunch of connections.
and when I was at number one, I'd walk through that convention. They'd all want me to do business with them,
For sure.
and I would listen
Yeah.
because hey, I found some things that I could get a little bit cheaper than what I was getting them for. So it all works together.
Hmm.
And
You just got to be strategic about what you say yes to, what you say no to.
absolutely.
That is one of my questions. As a business owner, you have to be very specific about your time and everything. How do you make the decision on what you say no to?
Well, I'm going to tell you what I think it was me because I was from the streets. I knew a con when I heard it.
Hmm.
Okay. Now, can you learn that not being a street person? Sure. But it's going to take you longer.
Right.
But I could see a con coming way out there in front.
Hmm.
And that, yeah, it cost me 3 years of my life, but it also taught me a lot of things. And I always, you would look at a situation. God gave you 2 ears to listen with, so you listen and you listen and you listen. And over a period of time, Ezekiel, as you will find out, you will, oh, wait a minute, I did this before and it didn't quite work out. Or, yeah, that really sounds good. I've never done that, and I think maybe I can do that. And so you go forward with it. But this one over here is trying to get in your pocketbook somehow. Did I make all the right choices in life? No.
Hmm.
but I'm 90% of them I did.
Right.
I could feel a con coming. I really could. It was it kind of chilling in a way.
Yeah.
I just knew it. Yeah, I'll give you a classic case in point. Just recently, my wife wanted to have a dachshund puppy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she went online and seen that there was somebody up in Stockton, California, that had a litter of puppies that they wanted just to get rid of. So she contacted them, and she started, we got to have $300, one for the vet, etc. Came out to $300. And I said to Cheryl, I said, Cheryl, this is a con. Well, she wasn't listening to me.
And it was.
Well, so, but I made it to where I sent. They wanted nothing but gift cards from Walmart.
Hmm.
I said, I'll pay you cash and so on when you deliver the dog. Oh no, I need the money for the vet. It
Yeah.
was a con. I could
Yeah.
smell it. I could smell it. I could feel it. But she couldn't. And God love her. What I did is I paid for a lesson.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I did.
Yeah.
So I let it go forward. We sent $100 up there. And in the interim period, they were said that they would deliver the puppy to us.
Never did.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I figured Stockton, and they said they would deliver it the next day. Well, Stockton's about 8 hours away.
Mm-hmm.
And well, it come the next day, and they said, well, we're not going to come. We're going to have to deliver it. We need more $100 for the people to deliver the dog.
Right.
It's a scam.
Yeah, for sure.
She learned a
Yeah.
lesson. We all pay for our lessons, buddy.
Absolutely.
In one way or another, we pay for them.
Right.
And so now she's got it.
Mm-hmm.
Now that doesn't mean that we can't get, taken some other way.
Right.
And I'm not a genius.
You just got to keep your eyes peeled.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. So it cost me $100 for that lesson.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And she still wants a doctor.
Yeah. Now you just got to go
Now
somewhere
I
else
gotta
and
go.
find it. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly right. Okay.
Yeah. Getting back to on track. So I think we left off. You were kind of feeling kind of weighed down by the business, and you decided to start scaling down, and then you eventually ended up selling out. Do you want to kind of just jump right back in there?
I can.
Yeah.
Yeah. After so much time, about 5 to 10 years, I can't remember, before I decided to sell the business.
Yeah.
It was time. I had every position that had been with me for years, and I trusted them, etc., etc. So I started, first of all, taking Fridays off.
What was the name of your business, by the way?
Water Specialties.
Water Specialties. Okay.
And so I would come home for the long weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and back, and I'd be charged up and so on, and hit the ground running on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I got to kind of liking that 3 day. And anyways, I guess they were running the business, and I knew that they were running it the right way.
Mm-hmm.
So I started taking 4 days, things like that. So finally, we would have our corporate parties here, and I'd have like 100 people here, and so on, and had fun and that sort of thing. But it got, I hate to say old, but it was wearing on me. So finally, I decided that I would sell the business. And lo and behold, a young man that I hired when he was 16 years old, he would go out and door knock. I had a crew of door knockers.
Yeah.
To get me leads. And he found out that I was entertaining selling the business. He says, well, I'd like to buy it. And he went and got an SBA loan.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I just had lunch with him last week.
Yeah.
He still picks my brain.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, my God, I used to do 3-4 million a year. Now that's a lot of money back.
For sure.
He told me that last year he did $8 million,
Wow.
and I said, "Well, what did you change?" He said, "Chuck, what do you mean? I didn't change a thing. You were making money. Your company was
He
very."
just stayed with the
He
mold.
stayed with the mold.
Yeah.
He did make some changes, which I could wish that I'd have made.
Mm-hmm. What
And
were those changes that he made that you wish you would have
yeah,
made?
yeah, good question. Uh, when I had my sales crew, they would go out and they'd, for hypothetical reasons, sell a system for $4,000. Well, I would give them $200 or $300, and I'd take the rest because I had to pay all these people, right? Well, what he did was he had people going out and selling, and he would charge them $600, and they'd keep the rest.
Mm-hmm.
He had more people that wanted to go to work with him,
Right.
and now he's done close. He said close to 8 million this
Yeah.
year. I mean, he confides in me, and
If you don't mind me asking, how much did you sell the business for?
$2 million.
2 million.
Yep.
And now it's worth
Well,
way more, you think?
oh, way more
Yeah.
because it's all based on your gross.
Yeah, exactly.
Not quite true. Let me set you straight on that. In a sales business and a service business like we have, when you go to sell your business, the sales means nothing. Because if the leader leaves, the sales go down. But the service side of it always stays the same or it goes up. And it's positive cash flow. That's what your business is valued at. Not the sales. Doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. The service because it's recurring.
Recurring revenue. That's exactly what it's called. So good job. Yeah. Yeah. And he's doing fantastic. One of my service, my whole staff actually went with him. I took less money for them to be hired by him, so that my people were taken care of. Okay? And
It seems like you never let go of your morals at all when it comes to business.
I try not to. And sometimes I would find guys doing things they shouldn't in their homes. And what I mean by that is maybe this part looked like it was still working, but looked like it would go out. And they'd say, well, this could go in a week or month, and they'd upsell to the part. No. What we'll do is when it goes bad, then we'll go back out to it.
Right.
I just have, if you look behind me inside that, we can do it after we get done. There's a water purification system, and I have one of my lead guys, service guys in my company. One of the agreements when I sold the company to him that he would do all my water, changing filters and everything free. That
was a good deal.
Yeah, for me. What? And for him.
Yeah.
So I had one of the guys that was with me for 15 years or something like that come out. And last year, he made $210,000 service work. And he made a lot of money with me.
Yeah.
He's got now, I think he said 13 trucks where I have 7.
Scaled up.
Yep. And he's fine. He's doing great. He's got new what is it, Alexa?
Lexus?
Yeah, Lexus. And he also has, what's that new battery car?
Tesla. Yeah.
Tesla.
Tesla.
Yeah. And, just bought a home up in Big Bear and bought a home in Huntington Beach. And
Nice.
hey, he worked hard.
Exactly.
And that's what it's all about. People think that it comes easy and well, yeah, sometimes in the streets it does, but you pay for it. This way, if you work hard, you keep all the money.
Exactly.
Okay?
Yeah.
And follow your dream. I think I told you that in the beginning of this. You always follow your dream.
Sir.
Don't let people get in and have people advise you, but don't take the negativity because that gets nothing.
One thing I've heard is never take advice from someone who's not in a position that you would want to be in. Do you agree with that?
Um,
Or maybe you just have to take the advice with a grain of salt.
that's a better way to put it.
Yeah.
Because I've had people that wasn't in my particular business. Give you an example. My accountant. You know, he's an accountant. He's not in the water business. And I would sit with Mike. Mike is his name. And Mike would, with him and I would start numbers. You know, why don't you try this? Why don't you try that? And so on and so forth. And I would listen to that. Again, 2 ears to listen. Did I take it all? No, but I did take some. And like some of my men would be out there and said, you know, boss, why don't you try it this way? I think that this would be a better way. And I'd listen to them. And I'd say, okay, that sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
Let's give it a whirl. And sure enough, my sales went up. So I don't know if I agree with that 100%, but I'll agree with it up to 80% type of thing. Again, I'll say it. God give me 2 ears to listen with, and that's what I do, and only one mouth to talk with.
Right.
Get double through your ears instead of once out of your mouth.
For sure.
That's my motto for years.
I like it.
Yeah.
So going into like you sell the company and retirement and everything, what has your life been like since retirement? Okay. And how did you make that change? Was it kind of a weird?
It was because I had worked 8-10 hours every day, and all of a sudden I'm at home.
Free time all the time.
All the time.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did is I bought a 40-foot motor coach, $500,000, and we traveled for years.
You still have it?
It's in being service now.
Okay.
I'm going to use that as my temporary home when I get back because I haven't bought a home there yet. Because I can't be there to see the homes.
Right.
All I do is see pictures that they send me. Well, that doesn't mean anything. Pictures are deceiving. Sometimes, not all the time.
Can be.
Yeah, it can be. So I bought that. So her and I went on the road for 3-4 years. We've been up to Maine 3 times, cross country. We would always go up that way in the fall to see the beautiful fall colors. And, you know, just that's what I stayed busy. You know, when I'm around the house, hey, you know, I do what they call honeydews. I do what she wants me to do.
Right.
And that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I got all the business out of my system, even though I help a lot of people, you know, every once in a while. Not as much anymore. In the beginning, when I went out, I get calls all the time because I was the number 1 in the country.
Right.
And so,
what was that like being the number 1 in the country? Like, did you ever allow, like, some people would get kind of cocky off of that? Did that ever affect you in any way?
It did. Like when I would walk through the conventions, my ego was that big.
Right.
You know, there's Bertollini. There's Bertollini. Hey, you know what?
Everyone knows you're the top dog.
Top dog. Okay. Now, and that gets old after a while.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to walk through the conventions, and as time evolved, new business. When I was out of it, new business would come in that had no idea who I was, but I had a lot of them that did. So I don't go to the conventions anymore. Not that I didn't like the attention and that sort of thing, and speaking, and it just got. I don't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Now I will. If someone calls me and they want some knowledge and so on, I'll be more than happy to do that.
Yeah. Could we actually go into your speaking? Because was that after you retired or while you were in it?
While I was in
While
it.
you're in it. So being like a public speaker, imagine as if you're giving like me a speech. What were you going? What was like one of your big points?
Ezekiel, I've been giving you a speech.
No, I mean as a like when you're talking to a bunch of business owners.
Right.
What's one of your go-to things to tell them?
Always be positive.
Positivity.
Like I've told you. And I was kind of joking there, but that's what I've been doing. I've been educating you a little.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would get up and I'd give a short speech. It wasn't long, and then they'd have a question and answer. So, well, what did you do this, or how did you do this, and most of the time, not being smart about it, I said just a lot of hard work, and then I would explain how the work worked,
Right.
and and it got to the point where the answering questions segment of it would get to be an hour, 2 hours. I was exhausted.
Right.
But and there was a dealer in Denver, Colorado.
I'm from there.
Oh, okay. Well, the water treatment company over there, and Don Miller was his name, and he had either number 1 or number 2 dealerships in the world, him or me, for years. Never anybody else. And we were good friends. And he would call up and he'd say, "Now, Chuck," he said, "let's figure out something that will for a contest." And we'd figure out a contest, and we would start it up, and he would start it up, and whoever made the most would turn number 1, or vice versa.
Right.
So we had a wonderful relationship. To this day, he calls me, and he's still in the business. He's moved out of being a business in Denver, and he's now an executive with the company that sells the product.
Okay.
He was a helicopter pilot in Vietnam, and he has his own license, twin engine plane, and he goes all over the place.
Nice.
And so, yeah, it's just hard work. It's like, and I can't stress that enough. And it costs me. It cost me wives. Mentally, I was exhausted many times, but that's when I started taking 3 days and 4 days off at the end, where I would be recharged on Monday and hit the ground running. But even that, it got to the point, well, time for me to go. Hang up my guns after 35 years, and that's what I did.
Yeah.
So,
what would you say has been your greatest strength that you've grown on in the business and in life?
Knowledge. Trying to get all the knowledge I can from everybody. Like I said, many people, my mentors, I picked their brains, because I didn't know. Give me a path to follow.
Right.
Okay. And it just a lot of hard work, and my theme of everything has been always stay positive, always, and that isn't easy to do sometimes.
When it gets hard to stay positive, what do you get your inspiration from to stay positive?
A lot of times my mentor, I would go to that. My dad passed away years and years ago. I didn't have him to go to. But he taught me, son, pay your bills, etc. Good dad. And my mother died when I was 19 years old. So I didn't him too. She didn't get to see any of her grandkids. Migraine. She had it burst in her head.
Aneurysm.
Aneurysm. Yeah. And she passed immediately. She didn't suffer. But anyways, I was up in college, and the dean or whatever said, "You got to go home." I said, "What's that?" He said, "Your mom was passed away." Didn't take that very well. I was mama's boy.
Right.
Then my sister was daddy's girl. You know how that goes.
Yeah, I was the same way.
Yeah.
I did want to go into, you had talked about how you've had struggles with, you've been through a lot of struggles in your life. from losing your son to alcoholism, and I have the same problem with my mom, with alcoholism and pills and all that stuff. How do you? I guess this is one question I have, kind of selfishly. What? How do you balance that relationship? How did you when your son was still alive? Because that's something I struggle with. Seeing my mom, you know, go down the wrong path with her body and deteriorating and everything. How did you handle that? How did you deal with that?
Didn't know he was.
Okay.
He hit it, but he was a functioning, that the way they put a functional alcoholic.
Yeah.
And the only way I found out was from my last son, my third child, my son. And I was busy, and I said, his name is Chuck, and I said, Chuck, it's something really funny. I would come in and I would have dinner with you, and then I would say, well, let's go to dinner. Tony was his name. At night. Oh no, Dad, I'd rather do it in the morning. I don't. Why is that? I mean, most people would like to go out for a nice dinner. And,
Yeah.
No, he never would do it. And I asked Chuck about that. I said, and I told him just that. And he said, Dad, don't you realize what's happening? I said, what are you talking about? He says he gets home from work, 4 or 5 o'clock. He stops at the liquor store, gets himself a big bottle of whatever it is, and he starts drinking. He doesn't want anybody to interfere with his life from 5 o'clock till the next day. I said, you gotta be kidding me. I couldn't see it. I didn't see it. We would go out on breakfast all the time.
Yeah.
And he had a 125 IQ. And just a brilliant person. And on my wife's side, I guess it's a chromosome thing or some. Many of the people on her side were alcoholics.
Yeah.
On my side, we had none. My daughter and my son, they don't touch drinks. They don't touch. My son smokes a little marijuana, and I get it. It's legal here, it's legal there. And so I could never figure out, because I didn't do it, why would he to the point of killing himself?
Yeah.
That's really hard for me.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's hard with you. That's your mama.
Yeah.
Okay? No matter what happens, that's your mama. You know? Do you like it? Probably not. No.
She's doing a lot better now. So what happened with her is she pretty much drank herself to the edge, to liver failure, got cirrhosis, and now she hasn't had a drink since then. But there was a time, it was my senior year of high school. Now I'm 20. I've been out of high school for 2 years now, and yeah, we thought she was gonna die. The doctors gave her 3 days, and she came through. And now she's still not in good shape physically, but she's alive.
Did she get a liver transplant?
She got on the list, and then she actually ended up not deciding to get a transplant because I guess her kidneys are doing good.
Mm-hmm.
Her kidneys are doing good, so they said it's kind of too risky to do a transplant because you never know if your body's going to take it or not.
Absolutely.
So that's where she is now, but she's off drugs, off alcohol. Just kind of messed her up in the head a little bit. So.
She's seen light.
Yeah.
And it took a long time to get her there.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that my son was an alcoholic for years.
Mm-hmm.
My son kept it, because I didn't ask about it, he didn't tell about it.
Right.
I mean, it's like you and me right now. With my son, we'd go out, we'd talk just like this. Like I never knew it. I didn't recognize it because I've never been near an alcoholic.
Yeah. Do you have any regrets or anything on how maybe that was handled or anything like that? Or I guess anything in life? Like, what do you look back on and you're like, I wish I could change that?
No, and at 80, you do that a lot.
Yeah.
What I should have done, what I could have done, and what I did.
Right.
3 different things.
Uh-huh.
And I do look at that like I said. I didn't leave. We divorced after 14 years. And then I went to prison for 3, so they didn't see me for 3 years. And, you looked at, you think back and said, well, if I hadn't have done that, when I was home, would that make a difference? There's no way of knowing.
Yeah.
I can't turn back that clock to find out. But I go through head trips with that every once in a while.
Absolutely.
And I think you probably do too, a little bit, based on what I'm feeling.
Yeah. I mean, it's always hard to balance, because it's like I love my own mom, but she put me through so much. It's hard to balance, how to still keep that love, but also
Hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. But my 2 other kids, they were confronted with the same thing, and they turned out to be beautiful. My daughter's in Finland. I have a beautiful grandson that just graduated, and moving on now to apprenticeship and be electrician. He's brilliant. My son, I have a beautiful granddaughter. I actually 2 of them, 2 girls and a boy, all really good. So I've been blessed too. Yeah, did I have my troubles? Absolutely. But again, I try to stay on the positive side of that equation. I can't do anything negative. Let's try. I spoke to my granddaughter yesterday, and she was having a little trouble, finding work and so on for whatever reason. But the bottom line is that, I pumped her up and she was feeling good. I have a wonderful family.
Absolutely.
That's it, brother.
Well, Chuck, while we kind of end this out, I guess I just want to ask you, this is one question I like to ask. If you were 18, or if a young guy who's like 18 or 20 was wanting to be in your position, what would you say for them to do, like as a blueprint? You already said just listen to people, have knowledge, keep positivity. Was there anything else that you would say to give them a blueprint to being successful?
If they wanted to do what I did, you have to get educated. And the only way you get educated in the market is that you have to go do it. Like I said, I must have had, 50 to 100 different jobs. Mm-hmm. Every one of those jobs, I took something away that was positive.
Yeah.
And I looked and knew what was negative. Well, I always wanted to go to the positive side. I took that little bit that I might have learned and went to the next job. And all of a sudden, my knowledge became, oh boy, I see the good and I see the bad, and I see what could make me successful and what could make me not successful. And you only do that by hard work and getting experience. That's what it is. It's just experience. And you'll how can I say this? You won't know your niche in life. I didn't know mine until I was about 37 years old, what I was going to do with life. And then all of a sudden, this water thing happened to me, and I grabbed a hold of it. You'll know when it comes, and you'll say, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I'm going to try to do. And you're trying to do your thing with sports and so on. Keep that in mind. Never give up and keep going. Now, it's going to take work for you to get to that point, but that's also the hard part and the fun part.
Exactly.
Okay.
I've heard the analogy that, I don't know if you've seen video games and stuff, but that owning a business is like a video game, and there's always like different levels that you have to get to. And okay, maybe you pass a level and now you have to get to the next one, and there's a boss fight, and it's all just kind of repeating and trial and error.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Like I told you, I started out with a card table and a telephone here at the house,
Mm-hmm.
and I ended up having 100 people and 3 offices and so on.
Right.
Did I know that was going to happen? Hell no, but I kept working at it.
Yeah.
That's all. But work, be positive. That's
Yeah.
all. Chuck, all I can say.
Yeah, thank you for coming on to my podcast.
No problem, guys.
Thank you for working so hard in your life and going from being a drug dealer to being a business owner and a grandfather and a father.
Yeah.
So it's very impressive what you've done, and I appreciate you for just coming on and talking to me.
It was fun talking to you. I knew
Yeah.
what you did when I met you at the hospital. You reminded me of me. I, you know, just wanting to know knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and when you came back to the car and said, "Would you mind me doing a podcast?" And it tells me you're not a lazy person.
Yeah.
And I sense you were a healthy person in mind and body.
Yes, sir.
And you better stay that way because the other way doesn't work. Not once did I touch any drug. Sold them, but never touched them. So stay positive and learn from everybody. And at the end, more so than not, you'll go ahead. Because negative people, oh, I don't want to do this, or I don't want to do that, oh, I've got problems. Stay away from that guy.
Yeah.
Because he'll drag you down. Don't let that happen. And I give you my handshake, my man.
Yes, sir.